Suppose you want to change something, or you'll have to make a decision in a world full of unwilling stakeholders, wicked problems, a world full of dynamics. If you are very analytical, you will probably prefer a project managerial approach to change. You will go through several steps in the right order and realize change in that way. However, in a world of stakeholders, wicked problems and dynamics, that doesn't work. The project managerial mindset doesn't work. You'll need a different mindset. Change is not a project, it's a process of interaction with stakeholders, a process of aligning stakeholders. You do not need a project managerial mindset, you need a process managerial mindset. What are the most important differences between project and process management? I will answer this question by talking you through the steps of a project managerial approach. First, there are problems. In a project, you need well-defined, precisely formulated problems. However, when you are faced with unwilling stakeholders, a well-defined goal might be a problem. The more precisely you define your problem, the less attractive it might be for your opponents to work with you. Maybe you should broaden the problem to make working with you more attractive. When I say that a port has a lack of land and can't grow anymore, many environmentalists might think that this is bad news. When I say it's the economic and environmental performance of a region that is lagging behind, my problem definition is broader, but also more attractive. In a project, you need concrete goals. The more specific your goal is, the more it will guide your actions in the right direction. However, in a process with unwilling stakeholders and uncertainties, a sharply defined goal doesn't give me much flexibility. It makes it easier for my opponents to block my initiative. It might make it more difficult for me to play the game. So maybe I should define broad goals, maybe even vague goals. The next step is structuring. The intuitive reaction of a project manager faced with complexity is to reduce complexity, use a breakdown structure, for example. When you are in a process, your intuitive reaction should be completely different. Increase complexity, add issues to the agenda. The more issues you have, the more easily you can play the game of give and take. The next step, information gathering. A project manager will look for objective information. You need the facts and nothing but the facts to make the right decision. However, in a process with many uncertainties, the facts don't speak for themselves. Different actors may emphasize different facts. So in a process, it is extremely important to work on collective fact-finding or collaborative fact-finding. In a project, we collect the facts and make a decision. In a world full of uncertainties, we have to organize the process of fact-finding in order to collectively determine what the facts are upon which a decision will be based. The next steps are decision-making and implementation. In projects, you will, in many cases, go for a very detailed decision. The more detailed the decision, the more it will guide the process of implementation. However, in a world full of uncertainties with many stakeholders, it might be wise to work on open decisions, to keep room to maneuver in the implementation phase. Why? First, because of the uncertainties. We don't know everything, so we want to have room to learn during the implementation. And second, because of the many stakeholders. When you have an open decision, the message to the stakeholders is that there is still room for interaction in the implementation phase. There is still a perspective of gain, which is very important for stakeholders who are not fully satisfied with the decision made. Finally, the evaluation phase. The main criteria for evaluating a project are effectiveness and efficiency. Have we reached our goal at the lowest possible costs? In a process, there are other criteria. Sometimes the goals are not very clear at the start of the process, so the question is not, did we reach our predefined goals, but have goals emerged during the process? Have we seized the opportunities that came along during the process? Also, in the evaluation of processes, relational criteria are very important. We have been working with stakeholders and we will need them again in the next process. So the question is also, have lasting relationships developed? Has it been a fair process? If not, we will probably have damaged future relationships. Processes are about interaction and relationships. Processes are about interaction and relationships. So relational evaluation criteria are very important.